Hey, how's it going? So today we've got a lot to unpack because Destiny 2 just got its latest patch, update 9.1.5.1. And honestly, this one changes quite a few things in ways that you might not notice at first glance. On the surface, it looks like a small patch, but when you start actually playing around with it, you realize Bungie's tweaking some deep systems behind the scenes. It's not just bug fixes and balance changes this time. It's a reshaping of how progression feels, how we interact with power levels, and even how certain currencies are being sunset. So if you're logging in this week and wondering what's new or what you need to do first, let's talk it through in detail. The first thing that's probably going to catch everyone's attention when you log in is that message about unstable cores. Yep, they're being officially phased out, and this update is kind of the transitional point for that. Bungie's basically giving us a farewell tour for unstable cores before they're replaced by enhancement cores and Glimmer as the main infusion materials later on. And the way they're doing it is actually kind of hilarious. They dropped this one-time catch-up chest right in the tower that literally gives you 777,777 unstable cores. It's wild. You open it, and suddenly you're sitting on a mountain of currency that you probably don't even know what to do with anymore. The point here isn't that you're supposed to hoard them. It's more of a temporary bridge so that no one gets stuck with useless materials while Bungie phases this old system out. So if you haven't logged in yet, make sure you do because that chest isn't going to stick around forever. Now, since unstable cores are on the way out, Bungie's also reduced the infusion costs temporarily. That means if you've been holding off on upgrading certain weapons or armor pieces because you didn't want to burn through your materials, now's a perfect time to go ahead and do it. You'll spend fewer resources and the process just feels smoother. Think of it as Bungie giving you one last upgrade spree before the new infusion economy fully kicks in. Right next to that, there's another small but meaningful addition in the tower, the Techsec Supply Drop chest by Zavala. This one's not just a flavor item. It actually gives you a bundle of tier 3 weapons and armor, along with some enhancement cores. And it's designed to bump new or returning players up to around 300 power. It's a one-time per account drop, and it's available throughout Season 27. Honestly, this is a great move. It's Bungie acknowledging that new players or people returning after a few seasons shouldn't have to slog through old content just to catch up. The power floor has been a bit confusing for a while, especially since it's tied to activities and not always intuitive for people who took a break. With this update, the game gives you a clean entry point. You log in, open the supply chest, and suddenly you're in a position to start engaging with current content right away. No unnecessary grind. Now, let's talk about something that might not sound exciting at first, but actually changes the gameplay experience a lot. Portal activities. Bungie's reworked them pretty extensively in this update. They've adjusted how power scaling works inside those activities, so now the caps use what's called effective power per tier. Basically, your power level actually matters more within those tiers, and you can feel the difference between being slightly underleveled or just hitting the cap. It's subtle but noticeable. They've also streamlined matchmaking by consolidating quick play nodes, so you'll get into games faster and more consistently. They've tuned grading and reward structures too, meaning those end-of-activity bonuses you used to get inconsistently, they're now more predictable. A bunch of those bonus drops have also been moved to weekly objectives instead, so your time investment feels more rewarding over the week rather than just per run. It's a small adjustment on paper, but one that actually makes the playlist grind feel smoother. On top of that, several portal activities got specific fixes. Heliostat had an issue with completion logic that's been patched. Fallen Sabier had a few bugs related to enemy waves. Contest of Elders had scoring issues. And Duality Lair had a loot table bug that caused incorrect drops. All of that's been cleaned up now. They also updated the Nightfall node, so matchmaking and rewards scale more properly with the new power adjustments. Another nice touch, they've improved how the game communicates power levels in the UI. Activity tooltips now show both combatant power and the activity power cap alongside your adjusted power. This is something players have been asking for forever, honestly. You can finally tell at a glance whether you're underleveled, overleveled, or right at the sweet spot for an activity. It's one of those quality of life things that might not seem flashy, but actually helps a ton in planning your loadouts and deciding where to spend your time. All right, now for the balance and bug fixes. There's a pretty long list here, but a few stand out. For weapons, there was a lingering bug with charge time masterworks that affected certain fusion rifles. That's fixed. Enhanced Reservoir Burst got a stat change, so it behaves a little more consistently with how it's supposed to function. Also, Alethanum, one of the newer exotic weapons, had an issue with projectile counting, and that's now corrected. You'll notice it feels more reliable, especially in longer fights. Ability-wise, a few subclasses got much-needed attention. Glacial Harvest had a cooldown bug in PvE that made it way less effective. That's been fixed, so stasis builds should feel smoother again. Ensnaring Slam now correctly triggers the class stat Overshield, which makes it more viable for survivability-based builds. And for Strand users, Weave Walk got a subtle buff. It now grants Woven Mail if you exit through a finisher. That little tweak adds a nice layer of synergy if you're using a melee-heavy playstyle. Armor changes are minor but important. Young Ahamkara's Spine, the 2.0 version, was misflagged, which affected certain mod interactions, and that's finally fixed. The Iron Panoply Warlock Gauntlets also had a visual issue that made the shader application look weird, and Bungie fixed that too. Gameplay modifiers got a small but interesting update, particularly the Volatile Shields modifier. Enemies affected by it can now attack a little sooner after their shields break, which sounds like a nerf at first, but is actually designed to make encounters flow more naturally. You'll also gain Devour while the shield is broken, which gives you more sustain during those fights. It's a smart change that makes high difficulty content feel just a bit more tactical rather than purely punishing. Now, beyond all of that, Bungie also tackled a bunch of general fixes. Guardian rank progression had a few edge cases where ranks weren't updating properly, especially after season resets, and that's resolved. Clan engram rewards had a few inconsistencies, particularly if you were joining a clan midweek, and that's now fixed as well. One interesting note, Bungie mentioned that lost chronologues will be replaced in a future patch. So, if you were missing any of those seasonal story entries, don't worry, they're not gone forever, just temporarily misplaced in the system. And for anyone wondering about console specifics, the version label now reads as 3.77 1.172, which is the one you'll see on PS5 and Xbox. That's just to confirm you're running the correct patch. The maintenance for this update was handled on October 14th, 2025, so by now everything should be live and stable. Alright, let's talk about what this all means for you as a player. The big takeaway here is that Bungie's clearly moving towards simplifying progression. The unstable core situation is a sign of that. They're trying to streamline materials and make power progression less about managing obscure currencies and more about actually playing the game. The power and portal changes reflect that same mindset. You're being rewarded more directly for your time, and you're spending less time in menus or worrying about whether you're doing the right activity to progress efficiently. If you're a returning player, this is the perfect moment to get back in. You'll be boosted to a functional power level almost instantly. You'll have enough resources to upgrade your favorite gear, and you'll get access to the core activities without hitting frustrating barriers. And for regular players, this is a good time to experiment. With infusion costs lowered, you can afford to test different loadouts or upgrade some of those weapons you shelved months ago. Maybe that exotic fusion rifle you never bothered leveling is worth another look now. The portal changes also make the grind more enjoyable. You'll spend less time waiting, matchmaking feels quicker, and the power scaling makes fights feel fairer. It's the kind of tuning that doesn't necessarily make headlines, but actually improves your day-to-day gameplay experience significantly. So here's the ideal plan if you're jumping in after the patch.